Okay, let's go. Happy whatever day it is, wherever you are. It's a Monday over here. This is a video for a set called the Alpha Omega RA, and they are absolutely stunning. They look a lot better in person. You can check my unboxing than they do in the photography. Or I got a slightly different version. It's an absolute stunner. If you are a subscriber, go ahead and comment below this video. If you're not a subscriber, why don't you go ahead and subscribe? If you don't know, I usually take stuff and I pass it on to people just because they're supporting my channel. You don't have to do that, of course, because that's against the rules of YouTube, but I can go ahead and pick subscribers if I want, and that's what I tend to do. So if you want to be a part of that, go ahead and subscribe, leave a comment below, because that's how I would find you. And then I'd check if you're in the Unbox channel and also subscribed, and then I might end up pulling up your name. Somebody just got the Terra, which is over $1,000 in value, which is more than the set we're talking about today. So it could happen. Go ahead and comment below and subscribe if you're not subscribed. And if you actually like the video, give it a thumbs up. Thank you in advance. Let's talk about this set, and there's some things to talk about. I'm a fan of this company. I like the way that this company is doing what they're doing. There's apparently 2 earphones, and the one that I'm talking about today, I paid full price for. I bought it from Music Tech. I didn't even talk to Andrew like I sometimes do. I just went ahead and picked it up because I wanted to get it. And I might be getting the flagship Omega. I believe I am sent from them in March is probably going to be the case. Now let's talk about the website, because it's interesting, and I mean that in a good way. When you click on it, you have an image of the set, and then you can click to buy it, of course, because this is a site for you to purchase stuff. And then right below the image is the configuration and the drivers that are within. And in this hobby, that's not automatic. As a matter of fact, you might find yourself with very expensive earphones or affordable ones looking for the drivers that are inside, because the website might not say, and the sellers might not say, and a reviewer might not, but somebody might know a rep and accidentally kind of spill the beans. It's happened to sets that cost a lot of money. There's a weird thing about people that are gonna pocket watch. You know what pocket watching is? Like, you're gonna calculate how much the driver's costing. You say, hey, you're charging. That's kind of why people say custom drivers, so you don't pocket watch. I would prefer them to use branded drivers. So what I'm looking at right here is 4 Sonian full range drivers. I like Sonian drivers. 10 years in the hobby, I find them to be very nice, particularly in the mids and the low end. 10mm beryllium dynamic driver. Now, I'm a fan of beryllium, and you might think that that's kind of like a meme or something, but there's hundreds and thousands of people on the internet. As soon as they see beryllium, they instantly pique their interest just a little bit more, because their experience, their brain says, that set, those sets that we've tried previously were pretty good on the low end. The stiffening of the metal coating of beryllium, there's different, you can do titanium, you can do magnesium, there's all kinds of coatings that go over a PT Mylar diaphragm. Beryllium seems to do quite well with having a little bit more bass and not impacting the quality of the mids, which would be like what I'm listening to right now, which is Vocals, which is a track called Luther from Kendrick Lamar's GNX album, which sounds epic on this set. So I see Sonians, I see beryllium, I see 2 more Sony, the ESTs, and then their proprietary DD Air venting channel, which is actually, it's a pretty good sized channel, and it's right next to the 2-pin. If you check my unbox, I look at this set up close. If you want to be like, why can't you show me the set? It's right there, and I did a close-up look at it on the unbox. So there's the set, that's what it looks like, and that's what's inside it. And then there's nothing else really there. It's the same as if I were buying a car, if I were on, what's it called, GMS Arena, where you can compare 2, 3, 4 phones, everything possible, everything that it's got, and you can make a informed purchase. I kind of think this is the way it's supposed to be. But the pocket watching thing, it's company's got a company, that's what they do, so I get it. Now let's get and talk to the performance of this set. Starting in the low end, tracks like Big Boy Kill Jill, Kendrick Lamar, GNX, they're using some AI stems and other stuff, but the 808 Roland is an iconic. I think the first time it came out, and I think it was used earlier, but the first famous use of it was, I'm thinking Sexual Healing by Marvin Gaye. The beginning of that's an 808 Roland. I'm pretty sure it's an iconic piece of kit, and a lot of when rap music started and hip hop, that people are, because you can carry that around and mix up all kinds of really dope beats, and a lot of the stuff that is just epic to you if you like 90s East Coast, West Coast, and then beyond. The 808, it's named after that piece of kit. Those type of drops with Kendrick Lamar, Public Enemy, Ghetto Boys, really a lot of everything that you've heard. It sounds fine on this set, sounds good. Listening to this album that I'm listening to on my PC right now in the background is the GNX album. And I think this set does that well. As we get into 4 and 5 string bass guitar, I thought this would be a good chance to kind of demonstrate for you guys. The bass guitar is an interesting instrument. It's named after the bass region, but it plays all the way to 10 kilohertz, maybe even a little bit. Depends on how it's tuned. On an EADG, I'm going to go ahead and do an example here. And maybe I'll put this up. Okay, that's not going to let me do it. Let me pause right now and put this in. And this is an EADG, and this is with the, I'm playing with only the fundamentals. I'm cutting out the harmonics, and I'm going to EADG. Okay, that should have played by now. And now I'm going to take that same EADG, and I'm going to remove the fundamentals. I'm only going to play the harmonics, which is really everything after 350, 400 hertz and beyond that, all the way up to 10 kilohertz, and then I'll play this now. As you can see, you can clearly denote the progression, EADG, in both forms, whether you're completely removing the fundamentals or you're completely removing the harmonics. The bass guitar requires a lot of the tuning. When you look at a squig and you're thinking, oh, the bass is going to be okay, or, well, that's not necessarily the case. That's an instrument that is going to sound different if it's tuned weird, like it's got a lot of upper mids. That's going to emphasize part of the bass guitar, and maybe the middle will sound a little bit out. It's kind of like vocals in a way. So the bass guitar on this sounds very good. The pulls, the plucks, the releases, the ringing of the strings, it all sounds very, very good to me. When we get to the next part, it's kind of an anomaly, because when the 808s are good, usually the kick drum is good. Bonham's kick drum from the iconic fourth Led Zeppelin album is obviously produced, but it's a little bit, I was expecting a little bit more because the 808s were fine. Remember, those drops in the 808 could be really anywhere. It could be centered at 35 hertz, it could be centered at 75 hertz. It's really all over the place. Whereas a kick drum pretty much is going to be in a certain area, and this is a little bit different, but usually 808s and the kick drum are, if one's good, the other's good. And in this instance, it's one of those that it's not. It's a little bit lighter than I would want. Bass guitar is fantastic. 808 drops are great. Kick drum is something. I listened to 3 versions because the vinyl press makes a difference. If you're familiar with Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon, let me go ahead and adjust this camera just a little bit. Excuse me. The Pink Floyd pressings, the UK Harvest and a few other ones, that essentially there's not really anything said to be done otherwise. There are very noticeable differences with tracks like On the Run and other things. The productions, it's very different. So I listened to 3 versions, and Bonham's kick drum on all 3 of the pressings that I listened to. One is a vinyl rip, another's a FLAC that's from a vinyl, and another's a DSD that's from a vinyl, and they all sounded slightly, a little bit polite. As we move into vocals, we get into like Lane Staley, Chris Cornell, Nina doing the cover of Blondie. I'm showing you right now the Fleetwood Mac album because there's 2 females and 2 male vocalists, and the female vocals, Christy McVie and Stevie Nicks, sound amazing on this set. This set does female vocals really, really well. To me, my preferences, I absolutely love it. Looking at the frequency graph, I thought there was going to be some pull out with the vocals. These frequency graphs, depending on where you line them up, look radically different. This is lined up at 1K like you're probably used to looking at mostly. When I compare graphs, I usually connect them at 500 hertz, which is a good anchor, because it's most likely most sets are not really pushed up or down in 500 or 450, whereas 1K really, there's a lot of variations for sets, but this set you're looking at right now is at 1K. Male and female vocals sound fantastic. If I don't know if you can see my hands, I'll try to put them up here. If I push up the mid bass, I can, why I talk about vocals and not just like mids and or other instruments. If I lift up the mid bass, I'm going to obviously impact what the vocals sound like, because I'm going to husk up the male vocals. I'm going to maybe ruin the female vocals to your ear, because I'm going to add a lot of low end to it. I'm going to emphasize the lower fundamentals, which might not be natural to your ear. It's not natural like in a room when I'm talking to a woman or listening to a female singer. It can sound unnatural. If you do the opposite and you lift the other bookend, which is the upper mids, it can sound like they're much more forward or just flat out loud. Or you can lift up the bass and you can drop the upper mids, like the Dunu SA6 when they started doing the bassy versions, and they were dropping the upper mids, and people started to say, well, that sounds like the texts are disappearing into a haze because of that elevation of the low end and the de-emphasizing of the upper mids. It's that is an example of how sometimes that doesn't go well, and the SA6 and then a variation, and then it kind of went overboard. This set right here does vocals. This is where it's shining, but the next step is actually where it shines the most. Like I just showed you with the bass guitar, an enormous amount of information exists in the harmonics, in the overtones. If I strike my knuckle on this table, my knuckle striking the table is really the fundamental moment creating the sound at whatever frequency it is. Let's say 500 hertz for a split second. Really, milliseconds is when that happens, and then the sound that you hear for about a second or more, 1.3 seconds I think, all of that is the sound created. That is the overtones. That's the harmonics. So a majority of the sound that you hear is created by the stick striking the cymbal on a ride or a crash, the pluck pulling on a string on an electric or an acoustic guitar with or without distortion pedals. Most of what you're listening to, or my library classical music, is the energy created by the fundamental moments, the bow pulled across the violin, just lots of stuff like that. I bring this up because a lot of sets end up being sold when everything is going right, but the one wrong thing is that people just can't listen to them for more than like 30 minutes, but they really like to listen to music, and that fatigue or the ringing in the ear that doesn't jump out when you first demo or you listen for the 5 tracks or a half an album, but when you start to listen longer, it does creep in, and that's because of your sensitivity in the upper mids and treble region. This set, for me, I have a dead spot. It's not a dead spot, but it's 6 kilohertz for me is really not a problem. 5 is definitely. That's 1 kilohertz difference, but when you listen to a sweep, which I wouldn't advise you doing, there's a drop at 6 for me. It doesn't bother me at all, but just before that drop is like a whistle right in my ear. It's really, really more offensive than probably any other part, until you start getting into the very last edges of what you can catch, which sounds like sand falling on glass. It's hard to, it becomes like this grainy sound as it tails off what is audible to you. This handles the harmonics very well. This is a very well done and very well tuned set. Looking at the graph, I thought I would be less of a fan because of the mid bass, but as it turns out, 808s, the bass guitars I showed you, or I showed you a demonstration, just harmonics and fundamentals, that sounded excellent, which is important for my library. The kick drum notably didn't. It just sounded different. Vocals, absolutely fantastic. Harmonics, excellent. Long listen set. This is something that's similar to why the Subtonic Storm is on my desk again. It's one of the few sets that I can listen to for a long time, turn it up without immediately feeling like I'm turning the volume up on the receiver. Like I'm literally going to start to count down and take away my listening time because I can't take the overall volume. Some sets seem to just eat the power. Good clean power, I'm not sure what is behind that. There are headphones that do the same thing. The HE6 V2 loves good, clean, lots of power, and it sounds really good. Something that's giving out the same dB but is a lower quality, that will sound not like trash, but definitely not like it does coming out of a good source. So power is like money. Having a lot of it's a good thing and of good quality. So my rant is done. This is the Alpha Omega RA. It is, I noticed something that I won't get into, but the flagship doesn't have this same thing. It's got some literature under it, which I guess I would say to Alpha Omega, because they're a new and growing company. And again, I bought this set myself. The way that you did this and the flagship doesn't have this that I can see, but it's got the same. It's pretty simple. But this breakdown, because the flagship is this plus some more drivers, I really think that this is, and to any company or something that's somebody that's thinking of starting a company, the pocket watches, don't pay attention to them. Just tune it well, put it together well, do good quality control. Sonyans, Knowles, well-known drivers is a good thing. Transparency is an excellent thing, and the way that this is designed with the photo on the top, the breakdown of the internals below it, and then there you go. It's just brilliant. It's cool. I'm definitely interested in how this company develops and grows. They've got a flagship that I'm probably going to get next month, and now they've got a bigger flagship, which is called the Fulgrim, and I'm going to be interested in that thing as well. So very good job at this company. I think I want to say Singapore, but it could be Malaysia. I don't want to offend anybody, but I'm not sure. This isn't a Chinese company, in case you don't know. It's not Vietnamese. I believe the ceramic MEMS is. Singapore, probably, maybe Malaysia. Thank you guys for your time. Excellent set. Let me go ahead and rate it. Is it a dumpster fire? Absolutely not. Hope it was free. I paid full price. For you, it might be free. Coping is working. With the kick drum, I went through the time to listen to different versions of When the Levee Breaks. And kind of competes with its peers. Yes, I would say this would be a better set than the Night Oblivion, which when I did my playoffs, that thing scored way higher than I thought. But keeping it a buck, that's a good set, yo. That's a really good set. I'd buy it. I literally did, and I'm very pleased with it, so it clearly goes there. I'm going to shamelessly hype it. This is a tough price range, so I probably won't do that. But I did buy it, so I would buy it, so I can put it there. And I would recommend that if you're in this price range and you're the transparency, like what's inside it, is of value to you, because you want to, like in your car and in your computer and your television and your phone, and you're kind of interested in having at least knowledge of what's inside, and preferably it's good stuff, as so far as you know, because you can base that on previous purchases that contain the same chips, whatever they may be and whatever they may be doing. Car amplifiers are the same for me. I won't get into it. Transparency is great. This company's doing it. They're relatively new. I think for the price that I paid for this, I got back a better performance than I was expecting, and better than the graph would indicate. I'll go ahead and leave it there. Comment below. You really never know. Like I said, the Terra is going out to somebody. Hasn't gone out yet, bro. Please, thank you for your patience. But somebody could end up with this. This is somebody's end game. This is playing in the wheelhouse of the EJ07, and a lot of people walk away with that set. So this is something that you, if you were to get it, purchasing it yourself or trying to win it, you might just say, I'm cool. It's that good. Everything beyond that is we're starting to gild the lily. I think there's differences, but I'm not gonna. No, I won't get into that. I'm kind of pulling it out with my butt. I just like to spend money in the hobby on stuff that I think sounds better than other stuff. But I could understand if someone said, I heard this set right here, and I decided to get out the hobby. Okay. That wouldn't sound weird to me at all. Really cool. And again, to the company, this setup that you maybe accidentally came upon at the same time that I'm ranting about this, picture of the item, breakdown of the internals right below it, and then all of the stuff that you typically might do, which is the other set, the flagship, which has a lot of text explaining the drivers. This breakdown with the driver visual, for me, the visual based guy with all the colors on my table, love it, love it, love it. Highly recommended. Very good set. Worth every penny that I paid for it. Looking forward to what this company's doing in the future. And they are called Alpha Omega. I think that's their name. And I'm out.